Effy Stonem, enigmatic, rebellious, a femme fatale. This Skins character became an instant late 2000s pop culture icon, wrapping struggling mental health and self-destructive behaviours in an attractive, magnetic package. With troublemaker tendencies, the enduring legacy of Effy Stonem as patron saint of many defiant teen girls' ambitions and fantasies continues to dominate the influences modelling teen girl behaviour today. Effy's name. The softness and sibilance of Effy's name helps to inform viewers of her free-spirited nature, with Effy being enchanted by Steven Spielberg's E.T., another tale of an outsider, another alien. At heart, Effy longs for adventure, drawn to the reflection and peace of water, which is evidenced by her discovery of a pond in a park which she has frequented countless times. This is fortified by the varying shades of blue she wears. Furthermore, it should be noted that Effy is called or calls herself Elf and Elfie in Fire Part 1, which assigns her an elusive and otherworldly quality, a signature of the character's disposition. Her elusiveness is illustrated by Tony's chase and her quote directed at the world, but particularly Freddie and Cook, "Nobody breaks my heart, capturing but never captured." As Pandora suggests, she even manages to seize the heart of Cook, who will never belong to anyone. Additionally, Effy's name is phonetically similar to the chemical symbol for iron, Fe, Effy. This element, like Effy's Machiavellian, independent and resilient state, is simultaneously vulnerable, rusting easily, revealing the two-sided essence of Effy. The dichotomy of her persona is arguably understood by Tony alone, as he exhibits a similar duality in reverse. The siblings act as opposite mirrors. Tony reflects an outward charm and friendliness, which masks his negative qualities and darker side, whilst Effy is desperate to cover her sensitivity and softness through a demeanour of coldness and manipulation. This could explain Effy's admiration for Tony, as her cold exterior only acts to cover her true feelings, her fear of intimacy, as opposed to Tony's real narcissistic detachment. As Tony puts it, "You don't fool me, Effy Stonem." No matter how much Effy tries, she is unable to emulate Tony's blasé attitude, his lack of care. Effy's two-sided nature is reflected by her name, Effy Stonem, juxtaposing the fluidity of Effy with the dark, lifeless Stonem. Effy, as established, is a walking contradiction, free yet controlled, wild yet repressed, childlike yet wise, upholding yet betraying the expectations of her family and society. Her escape relieves her pain, but simultaneously damages her further. Danger and death makes her feel alive. Effy's duality is also exhibited in her friendship with Emily and Katie, twins, and being one of two children. Effy Stonem is also associated with the double-sidedness of symbols such as books, pigtails, and earrings. Effy and cycles. In Skins, the Bristolian bombshell embellishes her outfits with showy accessories such as necklaces, headbands, or bracelets. The flashy and loud attire is in direct contrast to her quiet, mysterious persona and mutism shown in Season 1. As a result, Effy's clothes arguably speak for her, acting as her voice as they imply both hidden and visible messages, which are significant in influencing the watching of Skins. They enhance certain connotations, attributes, or visual images in relation to her character. For instance, Effy's accessories are often circular, perhaps a nod to the cyclical structure or circular motion of life. To elaborate, Effy stops speaking until Tony is hit by a bus, with his near-death experience prompting a change in Effy. These trigger cycles are seen throughout Effy's arc on the show, bringing about growth, evolution, and transformation, which is highlighted in her maturing outfits in later seasons. It may also relate to the often touted insinuation that Effy has BPD, also known as EUPD, with a continuous repetition cycle of highs and lows in her relationships, Other mental health issues purported to thwart Effy, such as depression or bipolar, follow similar structures. Effy's relationship with her parents. It could be contended that Effy's declining mental state is a product of the decaying union of her parents. In Season 1 and 2, viewers are introduced to Effy's mutism, which appears to have been a product of having been subjected to watch the disintegration of her parents' marriage. Michelle asks her, "Why don't you speak, Effy? Does nobody ask you why? It must mean something." Her mutism, a cry for help, and an act in which she hopes will call the attention of her parents, goes unnoticed, neglected, and unchallenged. Her fears, her mental health issues, and the effect of the parents' marriage are never rectified. Effy is failed by her parents, as they do not worry or respond to Effy's condition, the result of her parents' marriage. As a result, Effy aspires to never love, as her parents' unhappy union, devoid of warmth, has modelled onto Effy a fear to love, afraid that the fate of relationships can only lead to doom. Hence, she fiercely denies herself permission to love Freddie or anyone. Her suppression of love, her stoicism, stems from the deep-seated fear that she will recapture the relationship of her parents. The people I love, I hate, and the people she should hate, she loves. Thus, Effy attempts to emotionally repel others, resisting human interaction to avoid unfulfilling relationships and to protect herself from hurt. So worried of happiness escaping her grasp, when Effy obtains it, her avoidant tendencies lead her to devalue and destroy the relationship she has with Freddie. Throughout the seasons, Effy attempts to liberate herself from and numb her repressed trauma by going against and deceiving familial and societal expectation through drug-fueled binges and late-night raves. But instead of overtly announcing her disobedience, Effy's inability to withstand boredom takes on a quiet rebellion because in reality, Effy cares. Effy's perceived obedience, her lack of insolence, in part due to her mutism, is one of the central threads keeping her parents' fraying marriage together. This once again directly contradicts Tony's behaviour. In her own way, Effy assumes a responsibility in keeping her parents' marriage together. This is also paralleled when she attempts to revive the relationships between Cassie and Sid and Tony and Michelle. Unfortunately, Effy is unable to keep her mother, Anthea, from straying. Anthea pursues an affair with her husband's boss due to the monotony of an unfulfilling marriage, which starves Effy of attention, leading to chaos and the breakdown of her own relationships, as Panda and Cook engage in a similar betrayal. Effy's fishnet tights are symbolic of the holes in her life, as she ties up Anthea's loose ends. Effy and Pandora. Pandora was the other character which was shown glimpses of Effy's inner vulnerability, but Effy, like Pandora's mother, is comforted by the control she exerts over her. In this dimension, their inability to lose control, Tony and Effy bear striking resemblance. As Anthea's affair distracts her from the heartbroken Effy, fading into the background, she tries to regain some semblance of control via Panda. At Panda's birthday, the two forces of control, Effy and her mother, overwhelm Pandora, in conjunction with the deportation of Thomas. Suffering from maternal deprivation, Effy, similarly absorbed by her own drama, forgets that Panda is troubled by a liaison of her own. Once again, Effy doesn't ask Pandora what she wants. Had she known of Thomas's return, and it being any other day, Panda would have selflessly overlooked this as a result of her low self-esteem and inferiority complex, but this was her birthday. Tired of having her feelings ignored and once pushed aside, Pandora decides to reclaim some of that control and define herself by playing into Cook's attention, which Effy had subconsciously denied her of. Effy herself decides to reclaim pieces of herself, eroded from her parents' loveless union and neglect, by jumping in front of a truck. Effy craves desperately to ignite the ability to express and respond emotionally. Effy and Freddy. Effy believes through loving Freddy that she has been mentally weakened from her inability to resist love, complaining of creatures which she has grown too weak to fight following her. It is clear that Freddy has a hero complex, resenting his father for his mother's suicide. Consequently, Freddy worries about the parallel between the mental state of Effy and his mother. Freddy's attraction and spark with Effy stems from this familiarity. As psychologist John Gottman proposed, we choose romantic partners who are similar to our parents. However, it is not simply that Effy bears resemblance to his mother, but he projects onto her his deep-seated need to right the wrongs of the past. Effy represents an opportunity for Freddy's savior complex, an unhealthy coping mechanism. To Freddy, saving the damsel in distress could be his way of obtaining closure from his mother's death. However, in fighting for Effy and playing the hero, Freddy loses his life. Naomi foreshadows this by saying Hamlet is basically a teenage boy. He's got these desires, but he doesn't have the bottle to reach out for them. So he goes mad and wanks off about Ophelia and ends up so boring that someone has to kill him. In Skin Shorts, Effy dreams of her younger self, who hands her a toy giraffe and advises her to cut open the swan, revealing a declaration of love from Freddy inside the origami. It is interesting that in the realm of dreams, the giraffe and swan share similar meanings. Firstly, it should be noted that the origami swan is a symbol of eternal love. The giraffe Pato can symbolize that it is time to let foresight lead the way, and also a cause of alarm. Your gut instincts are telling you something, and to follow your heart. The giraffe can also let you know that you can ask for help, in which Effy does. She asks her younger self for advice. If one direction feels wrong, you should look for another. The vision and references to Pato the giraffe could be a metaphor for Freddy, who ultimately sticks his neck out for her. In dreams, the spirit animal of the swan is symbolic of new spiritual growth, opening life to new ways of reasoning. The swan totem is similar to the giraffe, proposing acceptance of an ability to know what lies ahead, requiring a person to follow their hunches and pay attention to their instincts. As such, the swan represents an ability to foresee the future. Whilst Effy comes to her senses, rejecting John Foster in episode 7 of season 4, Freddy does not share this ability of foresight. The spirit animal also represents monogamy in relationships, with couples finding true love at a young age, often staying together for eternity. Therefore, it may have symbolized the alternative to Freddy and Effy's relationship. Effy and Fire. In Fire, Effy relocates to London, working as a trader in the Gherkin, a phallic-shaped building, foreshadowing Jacob Bassey's use of Effy in order to obtain illegal tip-offs before discarding her. The affair, as foretold by the Gherkin, a sour cucumber, turned sour as predicted. Ironically, Effy, the femme fatale, is depicted as a sexual object, the caveat to men's success. Yet men, in this case, lead to Effy's downfall. Jake's betrayal, her father's patriarchal rule, and Freddy's hero complex, which gets him killed, breaking her heart. Effy can be described through the element of fire, which her last episodes are named, like Cook. In season 1, Effy is mesmerized by burning objects with a cigarette lighter, a reference to her internalized anger, which she vents through self-destructive means, demonstrated later in the episode. Effy also scorches the bar on the bus, implying that she wishes to free herself. As such, her attraction to both fire and water is another duality highlighted in Effy's nature. And thus concludes an explanation of the mystique and magnetism of Effy Stonem,